This is a Korg instrument brochure from 1984. Back then, in the good old days before the internet was a thing, companies produced brochures like this to promote their instruments. Now this, oh look who's on the front cover. This contains a lot of Korg instruments, keyboard, synthesizers from that time, but it also contains some gear which you may have forgotten about or perhaps didn't even know that Korg produced. So I'm going to scan this so you can look at it in greater detail. And you'll be able to home in on and look at some of this really interesting gear which was produced by Korg back then. More synthesizers, more synthesizers, more synthesizers. I used to get this and drool over it. I've wiped all the saliva marks off it before scanning it. Now, this was wonderful, and back then it was just such a joy to read these things and to look at the specs and see how these synthesizers, see what they could do. Now, oh, these are interesting. What about these? Oh, Korg tuners, still famous for the tuners. And here's a range of gear which you may have forgotten Korg produced. I'm not sure if they still produce any of this now. But let's have a scan and we'll have a closer look at this. So these are the scanned images of the brochure. I shall just gently chunter over the first few pages. I have scanned them to the best of me and my scanner's ability. If you want to see any of the pages in more detail, then pause the video and I'm sure you'll be able to read the text and see the images on screen. Okay, I'm going to bow out now and let you peruse the brochure, and I'll join you again in a couple of minutes. So that was a bit of a trip down memory lane. Certainly for me, I haven't looked at that brochure for years. It was quite interesting to see some of the gear there, which I have totally forgotten about. If you had any of the gear at the time, or indeed maybe you still have some of this gear, then please let me know in the comments, particularly some of the more interesting and obscure bits and pieces which didn't really make it into vintage synthesizer history. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did revisiting 1984. If you did enjoy it and like looking at old vintage synthesizer brochures, I think you'll enjoy these videos as well. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you again in the next one.